What if everything you know about history is wrong? What if the Roman Empire, ancient Greece, and even the Middle Ages never happened the way we were told? What if entire centuries were fabricated, inserted into history to create a false past? According to one of the most controversial theories in history, our timeline isn't just inaccurate, it's a complete lie. This is a theory of Anatoly Fomenko's new chronology. And if it's true, then history as we know it never existed. Anatoly Fomenko isn't a historian, he's a mathematician. And that's exactly why his theory is so controversial. Unlike traditional historians, Fomenko applied statistical analysis, astronomy, and advanced mathematical models to historical records. What he found shook the foundations of everything we believe about the past. Fomenko's claim? Most of ancient and medieval history never actually happened, at least not when we think it did. According to his research, entire centuries were artificially inserted into our historical timeline, stretching out human civilization far beyond its true age. His journey into rewriting history began in the 1970s, when he and his team started noticing strange patterns in historical texts. Different sources from different eras seem to describe identical events under different names. It was as if the same stories had been copied and pasted throughout history, just with new characters and new dates. But how could this happen? Was it a mistake? Or was history deliberately rewritten? And if so, who had the power to alter our past? As we dive deeper, we'll uncover the shocking evidence behind Fomenko's claims and why his theories remain one of the most controversial challenges to mainstream history. Fomenko's theory isn't based on speculation. It's built on mathematical patterns, astronomical data, and historical inconsistencies that challenge everything we know. One of his biggest discoveries? Ancient texts describing different historical events are actually retellings of the same story. For example, he compared the reign of Byzantine Emperor Andronikos Ikomnenos, 12th century, with the life of Jesus Christ, claiming they were historical duplicates with strikingly similar narratives. Likewise, he argued that the Trojan War and the Crusades were actually the same conflict, described under different names centuries apart. When he examined dynastic successions, he found that entire ruling lineages seemed to mirror one another. For example, Fomenko found that the sequence of rulers in the Holy Roman Empire bore a striking resemblance to the dynasties of ancient Rome, almost as if the same historical figures were recycled under different names. He claimed that Charlemagne, the supposed father of medieval Europe, may have been an altered version of a much later ruler. Similarly, he pointed to parallels between English and Byzantine royal successions, suggesting that history was copied and renamed to create the illusion of a longer past, suggesting that the same historical events were duplicated and given different time frames. Then came the astronomical inconsistencies. Fomenko analyzed ancient records of eclipses and planetary alignments, cross-referencing them with modern astronomical software. One of his most controversial claims involved the dating of Ptolemy's Almagest, a key astronomical text. He argued that the star positions described in the text matched medieval skies rather than the ancient world, suggesting that the document was written much later than historians believe. Another example is the famous solar eclipse mentioned by Thucydides during the Peloponnesian War, which Fomenko claims aligns with a much more recent date than traditionally accepted. But the most shocking claim of all? The Roman Empire, ancient Egypt, and even the Bible might have been fabricated or significantly altered. According to Fomenko, what we call ancient history may have been created or rewritten during the Renaissance to serve political and religious agendas. If that's true, then what really happened in the past? And why would anyone want to hide it? In the next chapter, we examine the boldest claim of Fomenko's theory, that the Middle Ages never actually existed. Fomenko's most radical claim is that the Middle Ages, as we know them, were artificially inserted into history. According to his research, a period of approximately 1,000 years, between 476 and 1500 CE, never actually happened. Instead, events we associate with medieval Europe were either fabricated or took place in a much shorter time frame. The most shocking part? He argues that the historical figures we believe lived centuries apart may have actually been the same people, duplicated under different names to create the illusion of a long, continuous timeline. One example he points to is the striking resemblance between Pope Gregory VII and the Byzantine Emperor Andronikos Ikomnenos. Both men enacted religious reforms, faced rebellions, and were ultimately overthrown in violent uprisings. Fomenko suggests that they could be the same historical figure, simply placed in different centuries. Then, there's the case of the Great Schism of 1054, which split the Christian Church into Roman Catholic and Eastern Orthodox branches. Fomenko claims that this event may have been fabricated or exaggerated much later, in order to justify existing religious divisions. Perhaps the most controversial part of his argument is his assertion that major medieval wars, such as the 100 Years' War and the Mongol invasions, might have been massively distorted or even invented. He points out that historical sources describing these conflicts are often fragmented, contradictory, or written centuries after the supposed events. But if this is true, then why would someone rewrite history? Who would benefit from inserting an extra 1,000 years into our timeline? In the next chapter, we explore the possible motives behind this alleged historical deception. If Fomenko's theory is correct, then history as we know it is an illusion carefully crafted to serve hidden agendas. But who would benefit from rewriting the past? One of Fomenko's most controversial claims is that the Roman Empire may have never existed in the way we imagine. He suggests that much of what we call ancient Rome was actually based on events from the Middle Ages, distorted and pushed back in time to create the illusion of a longer historical record. He also argues that biblical events were placed in the wrong time period. According to his research, many stories from the Old Testament may have actually taken place during the late medieval period, rather than thousands of years ago. Furthermore, he claims that much of this historical manipulation was driven by the Catholic Church and ruling elites who sought to control narratives, establish legitimacy, and shape the perception of their divine authority. If Fomenko is right, then the history we've been taught is not just inaccurate. It's a carefully designed construct that has shaped our civilization for centuries. Fomenko's claims sparked intense debate. Mainstream historians argue that his methods cherry-pick data and ignore well-documented evidence. Some of the strongest counterarguments include archaeological evidence. Physical ruins and artifacts support traditional timelines. Dated manuscripts. Historical texts using carbon dating contradict as timeline shifts. Independent sources. Different cultures recorded similar historical events at the same time. But despite these criticisms, some of Fomenko's observations remain unexplained. Could modern technology finally prove or disprove his radical ideas? The new chronology remains one of the most controversial theories in historical research. Whether you believe in it or not, it forces us to question how much of history is truly reliable. So what do you think? Is history a carefully constructed illusion, or is Fomenko's theory nothing more than a mathematical miscalculation? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. And if you love exploring history's greatest mysteries, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss a new discovery.